$1,277. That's how much each American household had to pay more every year, all because of tariffs. Not China, not Europe. It's the American people who are carrying the burden of a trade war launched by no one else but the White House. A threat sent to 150 countries. Not an invitation, not a bilateral deal, but 150 letters of threat with one clear message. Want to do business with America? Pay up. The latest announcement from the 47th president was a political shockwave, but in reality, it was a failed bluff. No specific country named, no foreign leader confirmed, no agreement signed, just Scott and Howard sending letters. This is not how global trade works, and the world knows that, because no letter can replace negotiation, agreements, or the rules of the World Trade Organization. What Trump called a negotiation tactic was really just a glorified collection notice. Americans are the ones paying the price. When countries pay to do business with the U.S., sounds tough, but it's completely false. When America imposes import tariffs, the ones paying are American businesses, Walmart, Target, and ultimately the average U.S. consumer. According to the Tax Foundation, Trump's earlier tariffs cost each household an average of $1,277 per year. And that was just the beginning. At Walmart, prices for microwaves, socks, vacuum cleaners rose 5 to 15%. Target warned that price hikes were unavoidable. Small retailers, lacking scale, couldn't survive. Many closed permanently. Tariffs became a hidden tax. Not on paper, but eating away at every dollar in people's wallets. The illusion of 90 trade deals in 90 days. Trump claimed he'd sign 90 trade deals in 90 days. But what happened? Only one framework deal, and with the United Kingdom, a country that makes up just 3% of U.S. trade, and even that deal had no legal value. The last line of the document stated, "This does not constitute a legally binding agreement." No China, no Europe, no confirmed partners. U.S. businesses were left confused. Markets were in turmoil, and foreign countries, they waited. They knew this was just another repeated bluff. China, the EU, Canada. Instead of giving in, they formed new alliances, excluding America from the game. History repeats, and the cost of living in illusion. In 1930, the Smoot-Hawley Act raised import tariffs to protect U.S. agriculture and industry. The result? A global economic crisis. Exports plunged. Businesses collapsed. Farmers went bankrupt. Jobs vanished. And the world hit back with retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. Now, that same story is playing out again. Under Trump, the total import tariff rate soared to 38%, including 30% newly imposed and 8% inherited. A massive burden on every baby dress, computer, and imported can of milk. No nation has been hit harder than ordinary Americans. Because while politicians gave speeches on stage, people in grocery stores paid the price with their everyday lives. A predictable strategy and an unchanging outcome. Economists, even conservative ones, warned, tariffs don't win leverage, they paralyze the economy. Gary Cohn, Trump's former economic advisor, admitted, Trump didn't understand how tariffs work. He thought other countries would pay. But it's Americans who paid the most. The outcome? Trust in the U.S. declined. Rivals like China, India, and the EU signed trade deals without the U.S. American businesses. When history becomes a warning sign, Smoot-Hawley in 1930 and today's tariffs share one root: policies driven by fear, not data. Both were based on a nostalgic dream of a great America, where manufacturing reigned, where farmers were at the center. But today, only 1% of Americans work in agriculture, and over 80% of the economy is services. We're taxing the entire economy to protect a tiny sliver of the labor force, when what we really need is investment in the future, innovation, automation, and global cooperation.
Have you ever paid $40,000 for an SUV? Today, that same vehicle could cost over $100,000 when sold overseas. And this isn't a rare exception. It's the clearest signal yet that America's auto industry is entering a seismic shift. The true cost of tariffs. In just a few short weeks, the U.S. auto sector has shown signs of severe strain. It all began with two numbers: a 25% import tariff imposed by the U.S., followed by a 125% retaliation from China. As those tariffs took effect, A car priced at $40,000 in the US, like the Ford Mustang, became a $100,000 plus purchase in China. Faced with collapsing demand, Ford withdrew from the market. Across showrooms in Dallas, Chicago, and Miami, hundreds of export-bound Ford vehicles now sit idle. Domestically, American consumers are paying more. Abroad, buyers are pulling away, and the global supply chain, once seamless, is now facing significant disruption. When protection becomes a burden, the US government leaned into a Made in America strategy, hoping to reduce dependency and generate domestic jobs. A 25% tariff on imported vehicles sent a clear message: buy American, drive American. But the response was immediate. China acted swiftly. Then came South Korea and Japan. They raised tariffs on American cars, while vehicles they exported to the US also lost favorable terms. Familiar models like the Buick Envision, manufactured in China, now face nearly 50% in combined tariffs when entering the US. At a dealership in Kansas City, a manager explained, "We used to sell the Envision for under $30,000. Now, the same vehicle could push $43,000. Older buyers aren't coming back like they used to. Loyal buyers feel the pinch." Ford had to halt exports to China, a market that once accounted for nearly 15% of its global revenue. Buick, meanwhile, lost traction as its best-selling models became victims of cross-border taxation. The consequences are clear. The average vehicle price has risen by $1,500 to $5,000. Imported models now offer fewer customization options, with delivery times that may stretch twice as long. Consumers, especially those aged 45 and older, are feeling squeezed. Prices are up, incentives are down, yet the product itself remains unchanged. Rising costs and the jobs at risk. Without policy adjustments, these tariffs may persist or increase. Experts forecast annual vehicle price hikes between 5% and 10%. That means a $45,000 car today could exceed $50,000 next year. More worrying, though, is the risk to domestic employment. Several automakers are already considering shutting down secondary assembly lines or reducing shifts. For older workers, particularly in production roles, the pressure is building as benefits and medical coverage come under review. America's auto industry has long been considered the backbone of the nation's manufacturing economy, providing millions of stable, skilled jobs, especially for baby boomers and Generation X. But without tariff reforms, that backbone may begin to fracture from within. What began as a protectionist strategy has brought about consequences that few anticipated. Beyond boardrooms and factories, the people most affected may be retired buyers, longtime workers, and middle-income Americans who helped build the very market now slipping beyond reach. 25%, just a small number on paper. But on April 3, 2025, that number sent shockwaves through the global auto supply chain. Even more surprising, the real target wasn't even on the radar: an unintentional strike and a fractured alliance. When the US imposed a 25% tariff on vehicles imported from Mexico and Canada, the goal was clear: bring jobs back home. But the blow landed elsewhere. Toyota runs production in Baja California, Honda in Ontario, Canada, Nissan in Aguascalientes, Mexico. These factories don't ship cars back to Japan. They build for the American market. But instead of being seen as allies, these companies were treated like threats. And that misjudgment had a price. Japan didn't react loudly. They executed silently. No press conference, no diplomatic pressure, no outrage. Japan didn't respond with words. They responded with execution. Honda redirected Civic hybrid production from Mexico to Indiana. Nissan cut Rogue output in Japan to recalibrate its global strategy. Toyota fast-tracked hybrid and EV production in Thailand and Vietnam, a plan written years in advance. Since 2018, when America First began to echo globally, Japanese auto giants started redesigning their global map. They invested heavily in battery R&D and hybrid systems. they built alternate supply chains outside North America. They tested production in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, in case the rules changed. So when the US imposed tariffs, they didn't improvise. They opened a prepared file. The US paid for its own policy. While Tokyo adjusted in silence, Detroit began to sweat. In places like Michigan and Texas, where auto parts suppliers and dealerships cluster, the chain reaction began. Deliveries from Mexico slowed. Civic hybrid prices doubled overnight. Consumers had fewer choices, higher costs. Ironically, a policy meant to boost domestic production ended up hurting consumers and choking the market.
The markets just closed out their worst quarter in 2.5 years, and some businesses are warning how tariffs could hurt sales and their bottom lines.
Japan didn't just survive, they advanced. Despite the 25% tariff, Japanese brands maintained over 35% US market share. How? They absorbed the cost of tariffs and offered special financing. They scaled Southeast Asian operations to avoid future policy shocks. They led the race for solid-state batteries, staying 3 to 5 years ahead of the curve. No headlines, just numbers, engines, factories, shipments rerouted. The lesson beneath the silence. The US called it a trade war. Japan called it logistics strategy at a global level. There were no threats, just a subtle signal, a slight pullback in US bond purchases. Not enough to shake markets, just enough to raise questions. While Washington aimed to win Q2, Japan planned for 2030. A shift without noise, only impact. With quiet precision, Japan turned Southeast Asia into a production fortress, preserved their market without shouting, inspired CEOs from Seoul to Berlin to start copying their strategy. The global wake-up call through absence. By late 2025, one truth emerged. Americans still wanted Japanese cars, just waited longer and paid more. The US thought it had tightened control, but by the time policymakers realized, Japan had already moved the board. When you strike at the trust of a quiet partner, the fallout isn't noise, it's absence.
On Tesla in China. You've got companies like NIO, companies like Lishan, these Chinese NEV makers that are frankly as good, if not better than Tesla right now.
BYD achieved $107 billion in revenue in 2024, surpassing Tesla's $97.7 billion. Along with this, their vehicle production increased tenfold from 450,000 units to 4.27 million in just 4 years. Can this Chinese company completely change the automotive industry? BYD's remarkable growth. In 2024, BYD achieved $107 billion in revenue, surpassing Tesla's $97.7 billion. This is not a fluke, but proof of their explosive growth in the global auto industry. In just 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, BYD's vehicle production skyrocketed from 450,000 to 4.27 million units. This is truly impressive, especially as they have begun to dominate challenging markets like Italy and Spain. These numbers not only reflect growth, but also showcase a smart strategy that has rapidly reshaped the global automotive map. With this growth rate, BYD is not just challenging giants like Tesla, but has the potential to completely reshape the auto industry in the near future. Tesla's decline. Meanwhile, Tesla, while still a major name, is beginning to face stagnation. Although their revenue remains stable, Tesla's growth rate is slowing down. They still haven't fulfilled their promise of a $25,000 car, and even the Cybertruck has been repeatedly delayed. While Tesla still holds its market share, BYD is surpassing them in both revenue and production. These delays and the lack of new models have caused Tesla to lose its competitive edge, especially as BYD continues to expand and offer electric and hybrid models that meet market demand. BYD's models like the Dolphin and Seal are more affordable yet still deliver high performance and quality. A challenge Tesla can't easily compete with: technology and production costs. The answer lies in technology and production costs. BYD developed blade battery technology using lithium iron phosphate, LFP, which allows vehicles to charge fully in just 5 minutes and comes with much lower production costs compared to Tesla's NMC batteries. While Tesla uses LFP in some models in China and Europe, BYD fully controls this technology, managing the entire supply chain from production to distribution, giving them a huge advantage in cost savings and risk reduction. BYD not only leads in technology, but is also ahead of Tesla in product strategy. While Tesla remains committed to a fully electric car strategy, BYD has successfully developed hybrid models like the Super DM, which run on electricity most of the time and only use gas when necessary. Tesla, focusing on pure electric vehicles, has neglected this hybrid segment. This has allowed BYD to dominate the market, especially in regions where charging infrastructure is still limited, speed and consistency in strategy. BYD's growth comes not just from product development, but also from an extremely rapid expansion strategy. In just 5 years, they grew from 450,000 units to 4.27 million units. Meanwhile, Tesla seems to be struggling to maintain the same rapid growth it once had. The numbers don't lie. BYD has surpassed Tesla in production, technology, manufacturing, and pricing. While Tesla is falling behind, if BYD maintains this strategy, can Tesla retain its position? The Tesla Cybertruck, once praised as a technological wonder, is now facing a major crisis. Nearly 4,000 vehicles have been recalled due to a dangerous accelerator pedal malfunction. What exactly is happening? And can Tesla recover from this shocking turn of events? According to the NHTSA, Tesla reportedly recalled 3,878 Cybertrucks in April 2024 because of a faulty accelerator pedal that could cause the vehicle to accelerate uncontrollably. This is a serious safety issue that could lead to severe accidents. It not only puts lives at risk, but also deals a massive blow to Tesla's reputation, a company long known for innovation and engineering excellence in the EV industry. The root cause? The pedal was not securely installed, making it prone to getting stuck, triggering unintended acceleration. However, the Cybertruck's braking system can interrupt torque and stop the vehicle, which helps reduce accident risks. Tesla has confirmed that no crashes have been reported so far. Right after discovering the issue, Tesla paused all deliveries and asked owners to return their vehicles for inspection and repairs. The company offered free repairs or pedal replacements for all 3,878 affected Cybertrucks. This recall disrupted Tesla's production plans at Giga, Texas, where output was increasing to meet Cybertruck demand. Tesla began using a new pedal design as of April 17, 2024, showing that the company is acting swiftly to resolve the issue. This recall also triggered internal reviews across multiple Tesla departments, from engineering to quality control. Technicians were deployed to service centers nationwide to expedite the repair process. Tesla emphasized its commitment to transparency, publishing detailed technical notes for public access. Customers affected by the recall received direct outreach, including emails, calls, and mobile app alerts. While delivery delays are expected, Tesla says safety remains the company's top priority. After the recall announcement, Tesla's stock dropped approximately 3%, reflecting investor concerns over quality control and growing competition. While Tesla still enjoys a strong base of loyal fans, this incident has damaged public confidence. Viral videos on TikTok and X showing the pedal glitch have spread fears over safety, even though no accidents have occurred. This recall poses a major challenge to Tesla's image, one built on technological innovation and reliability. Tesla must now work hard to rebuild trust with customers and investors alike. As Tesla struggles, rivals are moving fast. Ford's F-150 Lightning has already sold over 15,617 units in its first year, and Rivian is scaling up production to push its R1T aggressively. These competitors are using this moment to emphasize their safety and dependability, while quietly suggesting that Tesla's signature truck may no longer be the safe choice. Ford and Rivian are seizing this chance to position themselves as more trustworthy electric truck alternatives. If Tesla fails to resolve this problem quickly and effectively, Cybertruck risks losing significant market share to rivals like Ford and Rivian. Still, there is hope. Tesla has weathered crises before, including the Model 3 production setbacks in 2018. To win back confidence, Tesla must improve its quality control and production processes, or risk not just losing sales, but losing its position as the leader of the EV revolution. 71,000 containers stuck at ports. $28.4 billion in Boeing's market capitalization evaporated in just 48 hours. And this is just the beginning of the global shock called the US-China trade war. Ports are gridlocked. Retail is paralyzed. In early April 2025, the US announced a 145% tariff on over $300 billion worth of imports from China. In just 3 days, exports from China to the US dropped by 47%. In Shanghai, Ningbo, and Shenzhen, containers piled up. More than 71,000 containers were stuck. In California, 27 cargo ships waited offshore, with unloading times stretching to 96 hours, matching the record set during COVID. Container shipping costs surged from $1,950 to $6,820, a 250% increase in just 1 year. 10 days. Shipping companies began canceling contracts mid-route, citing unpredictable pricing due to sudden policy changes. Amazon, the e-commerce giant, canceled shipments on their way. Five Below, the discount retail chain, canceled $67 million worth of orders, equivalent to 11% of their Q2 inventory. China's retaliation. Precise and quiet. On April 3, 2025, China quietly issued an order to halt all Boeing aircraft deliveries. No announcements, no arguments. In just 48 hours, Boeing lost $28.4 billion in market capitalization. 787 and 787 Dreamliner deliveries expected in Q2 and Q3 were all postponed. According to Bloomberg, this was a precise strike at America's #1 export symbol. Meanwhile, Airbus benefited. Shares rose 11.2% in Frankfurt as China redirected orders. This is no longer just trade. It's an attack on a symbol. And Boeing, as the industrial leader, is the most visible target. US auto industry in crisis. From chip shortages to soaring prices. The consequences spread from consumer goods to the US auto industry. Ford had to halt production of the F-150 Lightning, GM cut battery production by 60%, and Stellantis reduced production due to part shortages. In the second week of April, 41,000 vehicles remained unfinished, resulting in over $1.6 billion in losses. Car prices surged significantly. Stellantis raised hybrid prices by 8%, and Ford increased the Mustang Mach-E price by $1,200. Even used cars saw a 4.1% price increase in just 1 week. The average price of a new car in the US reached $47,770, an increase of $2,600 in April, relocating factories, scarce land, and risks in the shadows. In response, companies began relocating. Tesla moved Model 3 production to Berlin, Toyota reduced chip dependency by 30%, and Stellantis shifted production lines to Mexico. However, these solutions faced barriers. Hong and Cat Lai ports reached 94% capacity. India relies 60% on road transport, and Mexico increased waiting times at the Laredo border crossing to 12.5 hours. Moreover, China tightened exports of rare earths, causing Ford, Lockheed Martin, and Raytheon to experience critical supply shortages. The earliest forecast for alternative sources is late 2026. Meanwhile, China quietly sold U.S. government bonds, reducing its holdings to the lowest level since 2011. 53% of China's international transactions are now settled in yuan. The U.S. dollar has hit a 3-year low, and prices for essential goods in the U.S. have surged up to 15% in just 6 months. Is the dollar's global dominance quietly slipping away while most Americans remain unaware? The shift in global currency begins. For decades, the U.S. dollar has been the bedrock of global trade. But that may be changing. China has become the top trading partner for more than 120 countries, with a total trade volume of $6.1 trillion, surpassing the U.S. at $5.3 trillion. However, it's not just about the goods, it's about the currency. In a recent directive, China's central bank instructed its state-owned companies to prioritize the use of the yuan, RMB, in international trade. As a result, the share of U.S. dollar usage in transactions with China has dropped from 83% to 43% within just a few years. This is more than symbolic. For instance, China and Saudi Arabia recently closed an energy deal denominated in yuan, a move that signals growing confidence in alternative financial systems, a declining dollar and rising consumer costs. This shift is already affecting American households. A smartphone that cost $800 last year may now sell for $940. Basic imported goods, such as clothing or electronics, are seeing price hikes of 10 to 15%. These increases are not solely driven by supply chain issues. They are compounded by the weakening dollar and rising tariffs on imported goods, particularly from China. To manage market instability, interest rates have been lowered, but this has further weighed on the dollar. As a result, American consumers are absorbing higher costs across the board, even as incomes remain flat. Will the traditional model of American consumption continue if everyday goods become less affordable? Consumer spending slows, economic pressures build. Recent economic indicators reveal early signs of strain. New orders for U.S. businesses have dropped by 22%. Exports fell nearly 28%. Consumer confidence has weakened significantly. This creates a challenging feedback loop. As prices rise, spending slows. Businesses respond with layoffs. Incomes fall. And spending contracts further. Many small enterprises are scaling back, while households begin cutting non-essential expenses. The ripple effects extend beyond individual homes, impacting broader economic stability. With demand falling and prices rising, can the economy sustain its current path? A new global system takes shape. This is not a temporary trend. It may signal a long-term realignment. China is expanding its international payment system called CIPS, designed to operate independently of traditional US-led financial channels. By integrating technologies like blockchain, this system aims to provide a secure, sanctions-resistant alternative for cross-border trade. If more countries begin trading in yuan, the global demand for US dollars will gradually decline. There will be less need to hold US Treasury bonds or use the dollar as a medium of exchange. And as global finance diversifies away from a single currency, the impact will be felt first by American consumers through the price tags on store shelves. Can a nation remain a global economic leader if its currency is no longer the preferred choice for trade?